Welcome to the Healing Place podcast, a space filled with inspirational stories of hope, along with practical advice for your healing journey. Your host is Teri Wellbrock, trauma warrior, writer, speaker, blogger, therapy dog handler, and founder of the Sammy's Bundles of Hope project. As a survivor and a thriver, Teri's mission is to shine the light of hope into the world by interviewing insightful guests from across the globe. Please stay tuned at the end of today's interview as we honor our sponsors. The Healing Place podcast is a fiscally sponsored project of Fractured Atlas. Now, here's your host and trauma warrior, Teri Wellbrock.
Welcome, everybody, to the Healing Place podcast. I am your host, Teri Wellbrock, and super excited to have with me today. Hold on, I've got to get my sheet of paper here. Dr. Alison K. And oh my gosh, this list is so amazing. I told her beforehand, I said, I want to read it all, but we're going to narrow it down just a little bit. So yeah. I mean, she is a pioneer in the field of energy medicine and holistic thriving, which is something we're going to dive into a bit today. Yoga teacher, meditation teacher for 25 years, has the Vibrational upgrade system, and then we're really going to talk about her books, and she has a fourth one coming out, and we'll do a share screen here in a little bit just to bring those images up for you. So welcome, Dr. Alison.
I'm thrilled to visit with you, Teri, and all you listeners out there. This is going to be fun.
Yes, for sure. Okay. So I don't even know what to dive into first. Let's talk about the books, because that's a big deal. You have this fourth book coming out. So do you want to talk to us about what it's about?
It's called the Dragon Master Creatrix, Conversations with a Female Spiritual Teacher for These Times. And it's born out of, now I work with men too. I tend to actually, even in my yoga classes, I've always had a higher ratio or percentage of men to women, even amongst my client base. But nonetheless, I definitely have more women. There's a special part of what I do that is really about the raw feminine power of creation, well beyond the ability to give birth. And this book is drawing out questions and answers that I have engaged in with my almost all female students' questions in here. And it's put in a story form. And then there's the question and answer sessions within the story form I lead retreats. So when I train folks in my vibrational upgrade system, which is a combination of mindfulness and energy medicine, that second book of Vibrational Upgrade, A Conspiracy for Your Bliss, has the subtitle from my publisher's insistence, Easing Humanity's Evolutionary Transition, because these times have been what they've been since 2012. And I'll go into that a bit more. And I'm talking about that because this is what's relevant to you who is watching or listening, right? Who cares about my books? How can they help you? So knowing that we're just coming out of 2019, when you see this, and COVID is taking a different turn, and America is taking a different turn with the inauguration on the 20th. My fourth book is going to release right the day after inauguration. COVID was like a pinnacle of the times we're in. So that second book, Vibrational Upgrade, is written to help you better. It was written in 2016, published to help people better understand the nature of the times we're in. So I had a radio show for 2.5 years, and I was asked by Voice America to talk about the Mayan prediction for December 21st, 2012, back in 2011. And I wasn't doing anything in my business or public speaking around that. So I was kind of perplexed. And then I thought about it for 48 hours and called them back and said, oh, yes. So I had on like the scientists from my first book, What If There's Nothing Wrong, all about the equipment that has been created to measure subtle energy, because that's what I consider myself, and I'm considered an expert in subtle energy. And that's why I moved to Asia for a decade to study how subtle energy moves both in the body and the universe, for health and wellness, and also manifesting our greatest life. And the focus of that show was also to bring in scientists. That was a lot of energy. And experts who were focusing on the understanding of what this whole Mayan prediction for 2012 was. And I actually was on a cruise as a yoga and meditation teacher and an energy medicine practitioner in the Gulf of Mexico to Chichen Itza, one of the main Mayan sites where there's a ball court that is where it's said to have had the Mayan calendar actually written that predicted December 21st, 2012. And I had been there the year before taking a VIP client on a retreat, which I do. My trainings are always done at sacred sites. I can go into that in a little bit. So yet on December 21st, 2012, I was barefoot and the ground was rippling with like lightning bolt energy coming up through my feet. It was remarkable. And we had special permission, our group all dressed in white, to work with a Mayan shaman right there at the pyramid. And I've been back many times, taking people there many times, and it was quite crowded that day. I was actually on TV all the way over as far as Poland because it was so hyped up. Yeah. So we've been in this 20-year window, formally starting on December 21st, 2012, that is considered humanity's greatest evolutionary leap. And you can consider 2019 as a peak of that. So there's been waves of people awakening. What I've seen is starting around 2010. So that's when I came back from my decade of living in Asia and studying subtle energy. I was a classroom teacher in the international school system and administrator, and I taught AP Psych and English Lit. But I was also running energy medicine and wellness sessions along the side, which I had done when I was still in the States before going into the international school system, both of those. And so I came back to the States, dropped the classroom teaching and administrator, and took the energy medicine and wellness profession full time because I came back with the mission of, from everything I had gained and living the contrast, and all of that's poured into the first book, What If There's Nothing Wrong, of looking back from there, because I wrote it over there at the West, and seeing, especially in America, how much suffering is typical within the American society in the West because we avoid going within. So I had been in Asia, and I had been like seeing monks riding their scooters as I drove my scooter up to the market in Taiwan daily. You know, they're in their robes and they're driving away with their bags of fresh veggies and fruit. And I'm going up to do the same thing. And then on breaks, in between the semesters during Chinese New Year, I'd go to Thailand and I'll never forget, in Bangkok, I saw this monk and they have bright orange robes there. This monk was in his robes right in, by the subway, I believe, that they were just building. It's actually an overhead, it's not underground. And he was smoking a cigarette and on his cell phone in a monk robe. So it was much more like into our everyday, these reminders. And there were, huge statues of Guanyin, huge statues of Buddha, and monasteries that I'd go visit and talk with the monks who could speak English, because my Chinese it was conversational, but when I wanted to start asking questions about consciousness and energy, it was really choppy. It was easier when I was dealing with like reflexologists and Tui Na massage therapists because I could motion more. But when talking about the mind, I needed English. So there's these constant reminders to go within. It wasn't tolerated to get upset over there and fling at other people, unless you did it behind closed doors in your own home. And then that was a whole nother story. But to save face, you don't ever get upset in public. And so that, for me as a Westerner with Western eyes, also, the not showing impatience, the always, as best as one can, being gracious, and you lose face if you get upset in public, combined with all the Buddhist reminders, I ended up with the view of understanding that we're not looking inside and it's hurting us, including like if we paid attention to our diet, if we paid attention to our exercise, if we paid attention to what our body felt like, that is creating the internal environment. That's our power. The biggest hitters here in America and in the West, as soon as a country over in the East adopts a Western diet, by now most of us know this, the high cholesterol kicks in, the high blood pressure kicks in, and higher rates of cancer because of the high protein consumption and the crappy diet. So we don't have to be like even wheat gluten intolerance. What I understand is that in the 80s, they manipulated, they being agro industry, manipulated the wheat plant to the point so they could grow more to yield a higher profit. And they've tested it on animals. A nutritionist from Cornell I was speaking to at one point when I was working with David Wolf and John Robbins and Dr. Mercola. And so this nutritionist from Cornell was the one telling me this. So they did tests on animals with the wheat, and animals couldn't even digest it. And they've been asking the American public to consume it since the 80s. So wheat gluten intolerance and even celiac disease, I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to say, just get out of the American wheat completely. So we have so much more power where we don't have to defer to doctors and we don't have to defer to authorities outside of us. Even with me, you may visit with me, work with me for a period of time, but it's all to get the training wheels taken off your bike. So you take over with your own internal power. We are wired with the system for thriving. And if you look at like the amount of medication commercials on TV and the messaging, like even traveling, even in the UK, let's just leave Asia aside. Even in the UK, the airport lines coming back to the States, as soon as I'm approaching the States again, and I'm not like in a domestic to the UK airport, there's if we look at a group of people aged 70 or over, the majority of them are not in wheelchairs waiting to be wheeled onto the plane, like it is for American boarding planes. It's phenomenal. They're spry, they're walking, no canes, they're thin, they're happy. Like in Scotland, there was this castle ruins I visited, and it said super citizens for their senior citizens entry fee. And I thought that was great. So there's like this system we have in America in particular that honors destruction and heightens fear, and then asks us to go to someone outside of us to buy their product in order to squelch that fear that they've catalyzed. So all of this is happening while later on I went to Teotihuacan, which is a ruin outside of Mexico City for an equinox. I tend to, on the solstices and equinoxes, go to sacred sites and then do energy medicine from there, sending it back to my clients, like I'll video it. And so my masterminders. So I did this on an equinox. And I recorded, we hired a local guide, and I recorded him and asked the question, okay, so this is around 2017, maybe 2018 actually. And I asked him, hey, what's the difference between the old paradigm that you understand as the Mayan that you are and the new one? And he said the old paradigm was about destruction and the new paradigm is about construction. So when I came back to the States in 2010, I saw that there were some people who were coming to me as clients having like triple crises in their lives. Somebody dies that they love, they lose their job, divorce or illness diagnosis. So then around 2012 was when the first wave started to awaken and start to like seek out yoga or more meditation. And then like 2014, there was another wave where now we started seeing more people talking about being sensitive or empathic. And then in 2016, we started to see all of that and more. So this solstice on December 21st that will have just passed when you hear this, so see this, was the marker of the pivot point from the old paradigm of destruction really having collapsed and the new one really starting in 2021. So 2020 has been like a birth canal. So you're not meant to be suffering. You're meant to be thriving. And there's so much societal conditioning and messaging that people totally forget that. And I ask you, what if we didn't need crisis to go inside?
Yeah. Yeah. I say it often on this show for the past 3 years and to so many people that I talk to that, yes, the healing work that I did, you have to go back into the darkness to get to the light. You have to go within. And so I had to return to all of that stored negative energy, all of that had happened, that trauma, and do the healing work and shine that light on it in order to release it. Yeah. Agreed.
So So then there becomes this whole other, and this is what I write about in the book that's releasing in January, the Dragon Master Creatrix, because there's this whole other level. Like, let's even look at surrender. When I say, or when you hear the teaching surrender, what does that mean for you?
To give it up to a higher power, I mean, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, let go of all that control the mind likes to have. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what if there's this whole other level of surrender where now the new times that we're in is we're really actually meant to be, after we learn that type of surrender, the actual more advanced level of surrender is calling half of that back in to bring the pendulum back into balance. So it's a co-creation, and that we're able to actually, like the wiring in the upper belly, that solar plexus chakra is actually, every chakra has the right to blank. And when you can embody that, that chakra is open and healthy. So that's where all the clearing of the heaviness that you're talking about in the darkness, all the unconscious and subconscious stuff. When we clear all of that, there's this whole other realm of this fun, I'm not going to call it work, but this play that has potential to be activated so that you can continue to evolve and continue to progress and continue to grow and continue to co-create an even better and better life. And so the solar plexus has the right to desire what you desire. The lower belly, the sacral area, right beneath the belly button, is your right to feel what you feel. The root chakra, the grounder, the base of the whole system, is your right to be here. So if you're born into a family where mom is upset about having another child, or parents are fighting, don't want the child, and you're in the womb during that time, you end up feeling you don't really have the right to be here, something's off. If you're born into like abuse or a parent abandons, that's the root chakra in the early years. And so if you don't ever have the right, feel like you have the right to be here, then you don't at all move up to, I have the right to feel what I feel, because you don't have the right to be here. So why would you have any right to feel what you feel? Never mind having the right to desire what you desire. So I say this because I'm speaking a little bit and clearing a little bit indirectly with your background, what little you told me before we got on, because you're sitting here like a beaming light, and you're so ready for more thriving with the big move and living the dream life that you just made, Teri. That's what we're all supposed to be doing right now. We are supposed to be living our dream life and choosing beyond the status quo. But you can't do that if these chakras are carrying the old, and you're walking around with the propensity to keep choosing the same because you don't feel safe enough, because you don't feel like you belong to take risks and have courage to make a new choice. There's so much I could explain right now.
Wow, you're speaking to my soul right now, because I'm just in the process of starting to create an online course and monetize this business. I've gifted it out to the world, this podcast and newsletters and so much. And so I've reached out to a bunch of previous podcast guests and said, hey, you know, what are your thoughts on this? And the response was incredible. Like 40 of them came back and gave me incredible information.
Well, I bet.
Yeah, like here's my agent, and here's my PR person, and here's this course, and here's this, and it's been wonderful. Now I'm in overload. But the whole thing was one of these brilliant people. Do what?
Ask and you shall receive.
Yes, exactly. Well, one of these brilliant people said to me, you know, what? You've got a blockage going on here. What is it? Let's talk about it. And so we talked about it, and I said, oh my gosh, it was one of those aha moments of my dad. He was a Jesuit brother for 8 years in the Catholic Church. And he thought greed was, you know, one of the horrible sins, and that anybody who wanted money or had money or sought money or wanted to be successful was somehow this horrible person. And so I was like, oh my gosh, that's my dad message.
Oh my gosh, that's exactly what I'm up to day in and day out within my signature program, as I sit here with this knowing look increasingly on my face, right? So right. I'm in no means wanting to sit here and pitch to you my program, but I want to tell you, Magic Manifestation and Money Flow is my signature program. And one of them, and so it's focused on manifesting as if by magic when you're in the flow, and that includes money.
Yeah.
So I have a Chakra Tumen audio series, and it's obviously all the chakras that go in for an hour, clearing out all the unconscious and subconscious stuff. So Teri, from ages, and listeners, from ages 0 to 2, when we're just out of the womb, we don't separate from our feelings and thoughts from our parents. Remember, I studied developmental psychology as well as the chakra system. So this is kind of a coupling, as well as I'm a personal trainer in mind, body, fitness, and then also a specialty certification in behavioral change. So there's Eastern and Western here. So the chakra system is used as you first enter the magic manifestation and money flow program, but it's not in order, root, second, third, fourth. I asked for guidance, how best to help them in the context of increasing money flows, increasing ease with allowing oneself to have more money, doing what one loves, having an easier time manifesting. So it started with the root, and then it went to the heart. I'm not going to go on from there. And then I bring in a bunch of clearing around the spiritual right now, and I talk about this in the latest book, the Dragon Master Matrix. The spiritual is meant to be balancing with the material. So you know how we've spent a period of time in the United States calling the spiritual stuff woo-woo?
Right.
So I had forgotten about that term when I lived in Asia. I'm living in Asia, steeped in studying energy medicine, where they evaluate primary over the physical. So if anything, they were more dreamy than physically oriented, the way we're more physically oriented here, right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so I why am I saying this? Internal versus external. So here, the term woo-woo, like my second year back, I was doing an interview and somebody said that to me on the interview, and I was like, what? And then I remembered that word, and I was like, at this point, I feel like it's ignorant to use that word anymore.
Right.
Why would you ignore half of our existence, the invisible, if not more than half of our existence? The physical is only one aspect of our existence. So I say that and then leave that behind, because the spiritual and the material means not only are the materialistic geared folks needing to rebalance with their divine essence or their spirituality to have more balance and less greed, and where it's out of balance on that end of the spectrum. But then it's all the beloved, beautiful people like yourself and the listeners who don't let themselves have more because of the conditioning of either religions from past life, religious work as a monk or as a nun, or whether you believe in past lives or not, or this lifetime's religious conditioning, or minimalistic, let's save the earth, protect the earth conditioning, where if I want a certain amount, or if I want that kind of car, that means I'm greedy and I don't want to be that. That's the worst thing I can possibly be. So why would I go for money? Like, it's this weird. And so these conclusions from 0 to 2, right? We don't separate from our parents. Let me go back to that. So we are the thoughts and feelings of our parents. We just get imprinted with them. At 2, when we start going, no, the terrible 2s was separating. And now from 2 to 8, we're sitting there like interpreting, okay, so how do I get that feeling my older sister's getting of love? I love that smile, way mom is when she does. What does she do to get that? Oh, she washes the dishes. She cleans. She's a good girl. So if I'm a good little girl, then I will get that feeling I want. So into the subconscious goes, okay, the way the world works is I need to be a good little girl. It sounds overly simplified because it is. It's childlike logic. So we end up like that woman then grows up and becomes a woman. And so she could be in a relationship dynamic where she's spending all the time being a pleaser and being a good little girl and not speaking up for herself, leading to ultimately a divorce or ultimately abuse. Or ultimately he dies early or she dies early. So working this stuff out that's really there, and only like 10-ish% of what is existing in our consciousness is at the level that we can hear. So even with the practice of meditation, knowing I'm a meditation yoga teacher, you can observe your thoughts. You develop the observer. You detach from your thinking mind. So you have more space, and then you question your thoughts, and then you start to have even more space, and then you do all these clearings and activations. It speeds up this by 10 times. I've seen, took me about 5 years to get to with just meditation alone. I'm seeing some of my clients get to like within a year-ish and a half or so with these the clearings and activations together with the mindfulness coaching. So why am I saying this? Because even with the observer developed, you only see or observe 10-ish% of the actual thoughts you have. It's about 85 to 90% of everything every day that we choose is habit. So that's subconscious and unconscious. So we're recreating 90% of the past every single day because we're not consciously choosing.
Yeah.
Like when you're driving a car, you first learn, you talk to yourself, brake, reverse, hands at 10 and 2. You don't do that now once you've learned, but it's the same thing with the subconscious. And so 85 to 90% of our daily choices are made from that unconscious and subconscious place. So it behooves us to clear that shite out. So we have much more access to much more alive chi or life force or prana, so that we are much more connected to the divine. We're much more connected to our higher self. We're much more emanating out and connected to the field of unlimited possibilities, and allowing ourselves to live the greatest life possible that our own unique soul is here to live in this time now. Which means if you have learned something, Teri, that you want to share, and you've moved out of the I must give away stage, which I understand, I really do. And this is one of the biggest areas, is helping women where they're loving humanity so much and they're kind, spiritual, compassionate women, stopping that.
Yeah.
From where it's out of balance. Because the heart chakra involves, so the heart, I'm not going to point to it. I was just going to grab my screen and point down. The heart chakra in between the breasts, and the third chakra, the upper digestive tract, is self-worth, self-esteem, self-confidence, self-love. So self-esteem, self-confidence, and self-worth is the solar plexus. That's the belly, the top of the digestive tract. It's also your empathic equipment, where you take in what others feel. So anxiousness, so much of the time, isn't yours. Because you take anxiousness in from the chakra that tunes into what others are feeling. That chakra also carries anxiousness as an aspect. That's where it happens. Anxiousness doesn't happen here. It doesn't happen at your toes. It doesn't happen at your root. It happens at your upper belly, the solar plexus chakra. So it's a double whammy. It's interesting. Then the heart chakra is about self-love, but it's about self-care and self-nurturance and the giving and receiving. So if we are really genuinely loving, we are going to let ourselves have self-care and self-nurturance, which is being cared for financially, instead of just giving it away. So there's this whole like reworking, it seems like, of not only the spiritual people, including like toughening up. I have had so many soft, kind, loving, empathic or sensitive people say to me through the years of my monthly free call, I will never forget, this was around like 2013, Teri, in listeners. She said, not Miss K, because that was when I was in the classroom, Dr. Alison, when I am feeling like, I don't know, I'm taking on so much negative energy and I can't get rid of it, I feel like I'm almost being bullied. Do I just need to toughen up? And I was surprised. I sat there as always and listened to my intuition to answer. I didn't just talk like I am now. But part of me is tuned in intuitively what to talk about, I'll have you know. Because there's a whole bunch I could be and I'm not. And I said, yeah, in fact, it is time for the soft, loving, spiritual people to toughen up and not be bullied. But not only that, but let yourself become more materialized. Let yourself become more embodied. Let yourself appreciate the physical more. Let yourself, appreciate obviously sex, but appreciate a good apple and appreciate a beautiful handbag. And I even said that with that look on my face because I don't give a shit about handbags.
That's right.
But I do buy bags when I travel to different countries. So that's not true. I have a judgment about a Louis Vuitton bag and the amount that it costs, or the knockoffs we see in Taiwan and China. So anyway, it's all of that rebalancing.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love it. I'm mesmerized by it all. And I smiled so big when you said appreciate a good apple, because I had an apple with my lunch today. And I am so appreciative because I've reached this beautiful place of healing, and I do a tremendous amount of mindfulness practice every day. And it is of enjoying this moment in the now. And I so appreciated the apple that I ate today, and it was amazingly delicious, because it is about changing those habitual patterns and rewiring the brain with brain plasticity.
What kind of apple was it?
I think Gala. I don't know.
Did you do Honeycrisp?
I have had Honeycrisp. They're the bigger ones, right?
And the
Yeah.
tartar ones?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good fiber. An apple a day helps keep the doctor away.
Yeah. And Sammy, our therapy dog, she knows whenever I'm eating an apple. She can be on the other end, upstairs, and she'll hear me crunching into an apple, and she comes flying into the kitchen, ready to have. I said, she thinks she's part of a horse, because I think horses love apples. So.
They do. So she gets apple?
Yes, I give her a little bite of my apple. Yeah.
Do you know apple in Gaelic means, the King Arthur legends? You've heard of the land of Avalon? Did you ever hear Avalon?
No.
King Arthur in Guinevere. You've heard that?
Yes, that. Okay. Yes.
All right. So hooking into that legend and folklore, the land of Avalon is where he was supposed to have been. He found Excalibur's sword, and then he was taken by some goddesses over to the land of Avalon to die. And so the lore around King Arthur is that he was of great light, and he was a great leader, a very kind, compassionate, chivalric knight, and that when the UK needed his light again, he will return. And so in this late time, there's been, in this last, a couple of decades, it seems like, the King Arthur legend and folklore over there hasn't gone away. I don't know if it's increased or not recently. I mean, I went to where he's said to have been born, and that place is so touristy. So Avalon in Gaelic means apple.
Oh.
So there's an association. And so Glastonbury, United Kingdom, is thought to be the heart chakra of the planet. And that's where I lead my trainings. So my people getting certified in the system of mindfulness and energy medicine, they're masterminders. I work with them all throughout the year in 6-month rounds online. And then we meet in person over there. And that's when they actually get the attunements and the training and the manuals and the certification in Vibrational Upgrade System, whatever level they're at. Dragon Master is the 3rd level, and that's the name of my new book, The Dragon Master Creatrix. Over there in Glastonbury, that's supposed to be the land of Avalon. That's supposed to be where King Arthur lived out this chivalric, magical life. And it's just profound. Going to sacred sites on the planet, there's chakras on the planet, and the ancients understood that there's these sacred sites on the planet that you could go to, and then they would have ceremonies there which cultivated the consciousness even more, so you can feel it right when you go to these places. And so I do increased work with clients at these places to impact not only the earth, so it distributes out, but also on the clients themselves. And I talk about that a bit in the last book, Reasonable Dragons and the Dragon Master Creatrix.
Yeah, I want to pull that up again only because I want to remind people. So this isn't completed because the book hasn't come out yet. So the back of this, I noticed it's written it's just pretend language. So don't try to read that in case you're like, what language is this written in? But yeah, we just wanted to give you a visual.
Oh, that's great.
I'm not going to buy this book. It's in, Latin. I don't even know.
No, the front covers what to read.
Yes, exactly. So this is probably going to be the cover, maybe a few changes, but there you go. So I just wanted to point that out. When I pulled it up earlier, you were making such a wonderful point. I didn't want to interrupt you, but
thank you. That was perfect. You did
absolutely.
That. I feel like there's something you want to ask for yourself, and it will help the listeners if you don't mind me taking the lead in that way.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean,
do you have anything in your life right now shift or more of or less of? What is it?
Well, exactly what I was talking about. Like, I'm trying to figure out how to monetize this business. Do I finish my book manuscript that I've been writing for 5 years? Do I do a course? Do I do the coaching? And I have this list that's overwhelming me, which is good. I'm not complaining because the response was so beautiful. So I'm trying to figure out, what is it that my audience needs? What is it that people who are tuning in, what are they looking for? Obviously, the pandemic is creating a heightened sense of anxiety and worry and panic. And, I see it on social media. I see it with friends and family and how scared they are. And so me, who lived with panic attacks for 25 years, I'm very calm because I've done this healing work, and I'm not stressing about it. I'm still joyous and at peace. But I want to know what to do to help people. And so that's kind of where my brain has been. So
Okay. So I'm gonna work with my intuition here. I could give you my experience and therefore opinion on, it says the author of now 4 books, basically, as I still complete the 4th. This one piece will be opinion, and it's backed by professional experience and expertise. You don't write a book to make money.
right. I've heard that often. Yes.
You just do not. Now I'm going to tune in intuitively, and I'm going to model for you what I do, because Teri, I do the same thing. Like it's just, I'm going to go advanced. I'm not going to hold back here. It's kind of an interesting balance. It's funny. It's what I was writing about before we came together. So it's those 2 levels of surrender, right? And as we step up to be more the co-creator, we can't have me totally checked out of what I desire or what you desire just for the service. What do they need? All of my calls I have ever done, all of my interviews, all of my summits I've ever been on, all of the books I've ever written, all of the programs I've ever designed, all of the sessions I've ever given, and they are in the tens of thousands, has always been prefaced with some clearing on myself. What would it take, or what energy, space, and consciousness can me and my body be to contribute, even with my posts on my Facebook business page every day? How can I best serve this person in front of me? How can I best serve their consciousness? What is it that they need? And I'm finding that while that is absolutely a beautiful catalyst for then my flow to come in, and then I serve, it's almost like a connector. Abandoning myself is no longer okay. An utter, absolute chess piece service is not okay. And it's not like the skills that I can teach and do teach and certify in, you can end up channeling. And the idea with channeling is never to go into a trance, never to leave your body, but to be there present. You're the one who's made choices to cultivate this ability. You're the one who's made choices to not do that and yes, do that. You're here, acknowledge it. So it's the same thing with what wants to get birthed through you. Do not disregard your desires. So on that note, I'm going to say them back to you. Coaching, developing the program. Of these 2, which one do you feel lighter about?
Which one am I more drawn to?
Yeah, however you want to say it.
Yeah, is creating a program, creating a course.
Well, I would agree with you. That's what I got to intuitively. You're lit up all around that. So focus on that.
Yeah.
And you could also so then in the design of it, as you heard me talk about my Magic Manifestation and Money Flow program, when I was designing it, I used to teach curriculum design in the classroom as an administrator and department chair. So I kind of approached it from that same way, but I asked it to be done through me for their highest and best outcomes, if this is the focus of the program. And it really did get written through me. I was flabbergasted at the order the chakras came in to use. I was like, oh, wow. That makes sense. After I looked at it. Yeah, exactly. So just allow yourself to have some kind of plug-in mechanism before, like, no approach. I don't normally talk like this. I'm giving advice, and I don't normally do this. I apologize.
No, it's good.
Yeah, I don't coach that way. I usually go intuitive. So how do I want to say this? We can approach stuff. Like, I have all this training in curriculum design, and I could have approached my program that way. The mind would want to strategize and plan and make things fit, right? Yeah. It won't end up creating what's actually the vehicle needed out there that they're asking for.
Yeah. And that's what I need to trust and surrender to. Yeah.
But no, too, don't expect yourself to completely go away. Like, you're taking, like, I'm activating every time I do a clearing, a vibrational upgrade, clearing and activation statement. I'm activating latent keys and codes and ancient wisdom within you. So these awakening times, the astrological arrangements that are happening, that have, like, we're having on this solstice on December 21st, which is less than a month when you guys are listening to this, we're having planetary arrangements that haven't happened. One of them hasn't happened since the 1200s and another one since the 1600s. And both of those brought in huge, historically important key events. We are living in phenomenal times, and the planets are arranging themselves to induce that. Like, we're puppets, man, you know, to a certain degree, you know? And so we're feeling what we're feeling because these planets, with their influences that the ancients used to know more about than us now, it's influencing us to feel a certain way. The protesting in the streets, all the different marches in all the capital cities around the world has been in great part because of what Uranus and I don't even know because I'm not a professional astrologer, but there's a couple planets that are considered the revolutionary planets, and they shake stuff up. So there's ancient wisdom within each of us that's awakening now. So that's what I love to do, is activate the potential in someone. So you want to allow for you to occupy enough space so that it's not just total bringing down or channeling. It's, as the life force comes through, it has an intelligence of its own anyway. So if you were doing clearings with me, then in activations, you'd have more of these ignited. So as you sit there and you feel like you're meant to just be channeling, let it feel a little bit more like you're strategizing, because some keys and codes are getting awakened in you, even just from the planets and what they're pouring down. When I say pouring down, so magnetism happens between two different planets. I mean, the moon pulls the tides. The moon,
right?
An old term for women menstruating is called mooning, right? So each planet has its own pull and effect on us. So involved in that is there are certain energetics pouring down on us. I don't know how to say it any other way, but if you also look at the parallel of more interest in the space exploration increasing lately, again, since the 70s, we just are now starting, Tesla just yesterday launched something and said, okay, Mars is next, here we come. Yeah. So there's increased interest in this planets. It's no coincidence. The cosmos are inducing the change on planet Earth, and we are here to help usher it in. So the planets are having certain effects on us, and in those effects, we're having some of our keys and codes of ancient wisdom activated within us. So we want to have you a bit more present than that just total surrender and flow thing.
Well, I loved what you said about teamwork. It really resonated with me. And it's that idea that I'm at least understanding right now is that what comes through me is meant for me. And it's so therefore I need to kind of hold it by the hand and do it together is how I'm seeing it.
Yes, it's a co.
Yeah. Yeah. Beautiful. Wow. Amazing. That
was good. That was good.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, there's Sammy. She's saying hi. She popped up to say hello.
Like that one. Mom shifted, didn't she?
Yeah.
Didn't ya?
I see him.
She feels good, huh?
She's looking at the door. I don't know if somebody has shown up or no.
Get an Amazon Prime delivery or something.
Yeah. That might be it. It is dinner time. So she's probably like, all right, let's be done. So anything else that you wanted to touch upon that we haven't had an opportunity to?
Yeah, just blessings and keep on thriving.
Yeah, wonderful. Oh my gosh. Well, I feel very blessed that you took the time to talk to me about my needs and my audience needs, truly. I mean, in the long run of what we can do together as a team.
Yeah, you create yours and I create mine, and they receive or they create. I mean, it's a patchwork quilt. It's beauty.
Beautiful. So how do people get in touch with you? How do they find you?
Amazon or so Alison with one L, J, middle initial KAY, is my website too, AlisonJK.com or vibrationalupgrade.com. There you go.
All right. Wonderful. Okay. Well, again, thank you so very much for
my honor.
being
Thank
here
you
for shining your beautiful light.
You too.
All right. Well, everyone, thanks for joining us today on the Healing Place podcast. And remember, until next time, be gentle with yourself. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening today to the Healing Place podcast with your host and trauma warrior, Teri Wellbrock. If you enjoyed this episode and want to learn more about Teri, her mission, and the Hope for Healing journey, visit Teri's website at www.teriwellbrock.com. Thank you for liking, commenting, sharing, and offering your reviews on our YouTube channel, audio outlets, and Facebook page. And as Teri reminds us, until next time, remember, be gentle with yourself.